Welcome to the LeadingLane podcast for real estate pros by real estate pros with your hosts, Ashley Frederick and Stephen Burch. If you're looking for an honest, authentic, and raw perspective, you found it.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning into today's podcast. I am super stoked to have our guest, Ryan Henington, here today. I've known Ryan all his life. He's actually my cousin. And so I thought that it would be great to bring him on. He has a fantastic story, doing some fantastic things with the NIL. And I don't want to kill any of your buzz and take over your introduction, Ryan. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. What is it that you do? And give us a little bit of a background.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stephen, Ashley, Brandon, thank you for having me. This is, I'm super excited to visit about NIL today and some other things. So, my name's Ryan. Like Stephen said, I went to school at Kansas State University, and I was a part of the football program. When my career finished up, I started what's known as an NIL collective. It's for college athletics. It's evolved a lot, but essentially a fundraising arm that helps partner student athletes with local businesses, and it's become kind of the forefront of college athletics. So worked hand in hand with the coaching staff and the athletic department the last couple of years to stand up a competitive program to help us compete with the new rules. So there's a whole lot to unpack there, but I've worked with former student athletes to help current student athletes here at K-State.
That's awesome. So what is the main driving factor that got you going with NIL and the whole concept?
Yeah, I think just passion, right? I love K-State. I was in my senior season in 2021. It was December, and I sat down with Coach Kleiman. Had a really good relationship with him. To the point that he's like a player's coach, right? So, he's the type of coach where he brings you over, you swim in his pool, hang out with his wife and kids, and we have a very honest and open relationship. And in December, we were going to play LSU in the Texas Bowl, and I sat down with him, and I had another year of eligibility because I played through COVID, and everybody got an additional year. And the conversation was like, "Are you going to exercise that extra year?" And I said, "No. I think it's time." To hang it up. I was realistic. I never wanted to be an NFL player, nor was I probably capable, but I was proud of what my college career looked like. And I said, "Coach, I've loved everything about this program. However, there's a new rule that changed back in July." He's like, "Yeah, NIL." I was like, "Yeah, NIL. Coach, we don't have any NIL here." And backtrack, I live with Skylar Thompson, who's now the quarterback for Miami Dolphins, Cody Fletcher, who is a really, really good linebacker, Ross Elder, who's a safety. And I remember when NIL first became legal, all four of us huddled together. We're like, "Yeah, we're going to make a bunch of money." And then none of us made money except Skylar, and which rightfully so. But it got to the point where we heard buzz that other schools and other players were making money, and we looked at Kleiman and said, "Hey, if you want to be competitive here, this is going to be pretty important." Recruits used to ask about the locker room, the facilities, just the coaching staff, but now it's what kind of monetization opportunities are there? So I told him that, and he said, "Well, we're not going to have NIL at K-State. We live in Manhattan." I said, "Well, that's interesting, Coach. Let me put some pen to paper and see if we can do something about that." And he said, "Absolutely." So from there, I called around some former players that I played with. Jesse Ertz, who is a former quarterback in sales in Kansas City, Ross Elder, the safety that I lived with, and a couple other buddies, and we essentially came together and started this collective. And the first initiative we had was we came back in January, and we said, "Coach, we've got a group. We don't know what we're doing, but we got a group." And he's like, "Great. We could really use some help with walk-ons." And I was a former walk-on that eventually earned a scholarship. And when you can have a walk-on that basically, if you can help support them, it kind of opens up another scholarship spot, because if you can pay for somebody's school without a scholarship, you can take care of them and still keep your scholarship limits open. So he said, "Let's help some walk-ons." So we came up with 3 or 4 guys that we wanted to help out, and we started fundraising, and we jumped off to an early start, raised a couple $100,000, and we were on top of the world, and we were super excited. And we were able to put 3 student athletes on basically enough compensation to cover their tuition and things of that nature. So that's how this whole thing started, and it's just been a whirlwind since.
So, I mean, you kind of laugh at a couple $100,000. Like that's not a big deal. Like that's huge. I mean, starting out from ground zero, absolutely nothing, not having a program whatsoever, and then being able to get that many athletes through, I mean, that quickly, I think is something absolutely remarkable that you should be extremely proud of yourself doing. So tell us where is the NIL at now? I know there's some changes that just occurred. Like, where are you at financially? What is all this looking like for you? Because it's grown, from outsider looking in, it's grown tremendously.
Yeah. So a couple 100,000 was a lot at the time. I mean, we celebrated. I mean, we'd never seen so many zeros on a check at one time. Sure. Mind you, I was 4 months out of my MBA degree, and I at the time was just struggling to pay rent, and we were just excited to get some money in. So from there, we went on and we were fundraising, and we realized that we probably weren't as good as we thought we were. We were just a little bit lucky to start, and we ran into some serious challenges. And it's interesting because different universities and institutions took different approaches on how much of a emphasis they were going to put on their NIL program. And K-State as a whole, and for whatever reasons, many factors, probably didn't pour enough resources into it. So we got off to an early lead, then we fell behind. Then fast forward to December of 2023, last December, Coach Kleiman had about 14, 15 football players hit the portal, which is unheard of, the transfer portal. This is the new thing where it's free agency. You can leave at any time. A lot of holes to fix in that, but that's a conversation for another day. But we lost our quarterback, we lost our safety, all these people are leaving. We call Coach Kleiman, like, Coach, let's just sit down. And we did, and we said, Coach, if we're going to make this successful, we need to create an environment where everybody is aligned and there's synergy. In the athletic department, the fundraising arm, the NIL program, the coaches, we're all in lockstep. So we took that to Gene Taylor and the athletic department, and Gene's been phenomenal. We sat down and we said, Gene, we have to formalize this partnership in order to take this to the next level. So he agreed, and he selected us as the official NIL provider, which established a level of exclusivity. And this was back in January. From there, we set a goal of raising, $12 million annually for NIL, and we're doing really good. It's June, so that would have worked on the calendar period. So it's June now, and we're right on track with that. And we determined that number in the new Big 12 at Kansas State will help us be competitive and put us not only at the top of the Big 12 but compete nationally. So we're right in the middle of it. You talk about continued change. About 2 weeks ago, a settlement kind of finalized, or at least the terms of the settlement are still being worked through, but the intention for the settlement finalized, and the NCAA is now going to start revenue sharing, which the reason our NIL collective existed was because technically K-State, if K-State's this entity, they could not pay the student athletes. It had to go through a third party, insert our group, Wildcat NIL. Well, now there's a new rule that allows the university to facilitate those payments. The challenge is we have several hundred student athletes on contract now. We have money in the bank account. We have a program where we're basically roster management, and we're helping with recruiting, retention, and all these needs. So right now we're working on folding under the university's umbrella. And couldn't tell you where we will end up in 3 months. We have some good ideas on the direction we could go, but that's been getting all of our attention right now.
I mean, just a whirlwind of change and just the traction that you guys have had. What do you think, obviously you had a good group of people to get this thing started, but what does it take to be in your shoes in order to get something like this truly rolling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I think of success, I think you have to look at the marginal gains. There's so many different factors. I don't think it's fair to say that this one thing was the reason we're successful. Okay. I think there are lots of prerequisites. One, our team is phenomenal. I surrounded myself with people who are more talented than me. I realized where my shortcomings, my weaknesses are. We brought in Curry Sexton, who is an attorney, intelligent, you know, when it comes to contracts and negotiation and litigation. Pearson McAtee, who's a former basketball player, he's a fiduciary, so he understands the financial responsibility. And, you know, we developed a financial literacy program for our student athletes, because now that you're employed, there's something called the IRS, and they want their cut too. So a lot of education goes on around that. And then you can talk about the investment modalities and how you can turn $20,000 or $25,000 into a 7-figure brokerage account after, you know, compound interest in 40 years. And then just continuing to find people where I have holes. So I think I've tried to do a good job of realizing my shortcomings and finding other people who can help there. You know, another thing, Stephen, I'd say is failure. Like, failure has been the number one, like, not consistent, but constant. And at first, you know, I didn't understand, like, every time we hit a failure or a point of, like, you know, despair, I was like, well, this is it. You know, we're out of money, or we're not getting any traction, or we messed up a big donor meeting, or, you know, etc. But what people don't realize about success is that that's necessary. And we all have this value of, like, okay, we want to be successful, and we have this belief that, well, we can't fail in order to be successful. Well, that value and that belief contradict, first off. And you have to understand that that belief might need to be looked at, because it could be wrong. And, I mean, it's the tale as old as time, but Thomas Edison, the light bulb, like, he did it 1,000 times. Think about today, if somebody did something 999 times in a row before they succeeded. Like, your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people you're trying to impress upon, they will all look at you like, are you okay? Are you doing something wrong?
Right.
And I went through a whirlwind of different emotions of, you know, peer group or different people saying, why are you doing that? What are you doing it for? There's no point. There's no purpose. But we had a vision, and we just stuck to it. So those are a couple of things.
Yeah. I'm reading this book right now. It's called Winning, right? And actually, legit this morning, I was reading, and it was going through about how you have failure, and then you have the option to have disbelief in yourself, right? Like the doubt. You need to have the failure and continue to fail and continue to grow, because without growing or without failure, you're not going to have winning, right? But if you have the doubt and you have the self-doubts, that's when you truly fail, right? And you're never able to bounce back, because you're now in this limiting belief. But you're absolutely correct. You have to make sure that you're tipping the scale in the correct way. But sometimes the people that you're around, they do think you're crazy, and it's your passion that drives that vision that you have, that I think truly continues that on. And it's okay to have people think that you're crazy, but you can't think that you're crazy and having those limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah,
so
that's interesting. I mean, I battle with that too, because you know, my peer group will be like, well, why are you working so hard? Why are you doing that? And I've got to the point where I don't have to answer why. You know, it's just because I want to. Nature, nurture, set of circumstances. There's so many reasons as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I work so hard. And let me preface, like, I don't believe that I am endowed with some innate talent or anything like that. I think that I've been very fortunate to have, you know, an upbringing and parents that have instilled hard work, discipline, and not giving up. And like that's been a good recipe. So it's been interesting to see people like, well, why are you doing that? I can't answer why. I want to, and sometimes that's enough. And it's okay. Like, if people watching this podcast, you know, you all that are taking on these new business ventures and obviously successful in the business realm, like, you want to be outstanding. Like, think about that word. You have to stand out. And you just have to do different things than other people are willing to do. You have to expose yourself to different risk and different failures. And I think I'm fortunate when I played football at Kansas State, when you made a mistake, you made it in front of 50,000 people, broadcasted nationally, and then your Twitter mentions were filled with all this hate and, you know, different stuff. And like, well, the reality is, did it look bad on TV? Did I miss a tackle? Sure. Should I have made a tackle? Sure. But they could know nothing about the schematics, the reality, the setup, maybe it wasn't my guy to cover. There's just so many different things that people don't understand. And as long as you stay connected to that vision, I think you give yourself a better chance of succeeding in the end.
I totally agree. Ashley, I don't want to, take up all the time here. Just I see your hand over there writing questions.
So I think
what do you have here?
First of all, I just want to say I definitely believe in walk-ons. So being from the Badger State, JJ Watt was a walk-on, and JJ Watt obviously is outstanding, retired now, but he's true to my heart too, just because he gives back so much to the communities. And I think that I was reading some of your biography type of things, but it sounds like you're pretty involved in your communities as well. So if you want to maybe just tell us a little bit about what you do and why that's important to you as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it first started, the charitable work first started the same December. A lot happened December 2021, evidently. I went to Kleiman a couple weeks before this NIL pitch, and I said, Coach, I think I want to do a fundraiser where we raise some money and we use the K-State brand to help kids in the community. And my goal was to raise $1,000 and take 10 kids out shopping with a $100 budget. And we would have 10 football players, and each person would buddy up with a kid who needs the help. So we were going to call the local nonprofits and see if they can come up with a list of kiddos. And we put this GoFundMe out, and next thing you know, we wake up and there's $17,000 in this GoFundMe, and we're like, holy smokes. And there's just so much generous support. And we were able to serve like 70 different kids and help, I think, 34 different families. And from that moment, I was like, it feels really good to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why we do what we do, right? To help other people. So it's just been a continuation of that. Our organization, Wildcat NIL, we have a foundation, a 501c3 charitable piece, and we partner with, 10, 15 local charitable organizations in Manhattan. Food drives. We actually did one this past weekend. We did blood drives, help different nonprofits get school supplies, you name it. We're just trying to help make a difference, because I think once you start serving other people, that's the art of fulfillment. Like, science is a success. Like, you can do a 2-year recipe on how to get a 6-pack. Like, if you follow this strict diet, you work out this many days, and you just stick to it, it might suck, but there's a good likelihood that you can achieve your results, like baking a cake. But fulfillment is more of an art. And I've found a lot of fulfillment in being able to help others. So that's kind of where the charitable piece came from.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a giver's gain, right? So I feel that not only in charitable, but also what you're doing for the team to be able to help other people come on. I think it's just a testament. But when Stephen mentioned his book, when did you say Winning? Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he also has read or told me about Relentless. And I think of a lot of what you're talking about, Ryan, is there is, something inside of all of us that there's not necessarily always an easy way to describe why we are the way that we are. But, it is this relentless. It's always wanting to try new things, always wanting to be better, which I think, you've been doing a great job. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned you did it right out of college. So I know when I started jobs out of college, it was kind of, you're too young for this, those types of things. So have you seen that come across your plate?
Oh, yeah. I've put in thousands of job applications. I've got probably 999 no's, maybe 1 or 2 yeses. So, absolutely. Like, people want real world experience. Employers want people who can come in and make an immediate impact. And I didn't have that, so I had to kind of create my own, which has been a double-edged sword. It's exposed me to a lot of learning opportunities and growth. And but yeah, I mean, when I first got done, I was like, finance, private equity. I put my name in the hat for every private equity job I could find. I got as many no's as you could count, and I was like, okay, all right. And it's interesting now, because I'm, in a full circle moment. I'm managing a pretty good size fund here, and we're doing a lot of financial forecasting and budgeting, and I don't know, it's still, I would still be open to working a private equity job for a little bit of time. So if there is anybody in a private that has a firm, I'd just like to see what the inside looks like. But yeah, I definitely ran into that objection a bunch.
So I distinctly remember, and I'm not going to say the number, but I distinctly, Ryan, you and I having a conversation, and you told me that right out of college that you were planning on, you wanted to go somewhere and you wanted to make money, right? Like that's your main driving factor. You just got out of college, you want to learn, you want to grow. And you told me this number, and I said, oh no, you're way more capable of doing way more. Like you're already limiting yourself, and that was even still right out of college, right? So you went on and you got a job that made damn good money, and that number was way above the number that you told me at the time. But what I think is really interesting with you is, yes, you knocked that out of the park. I think everything that you do, you knock it out of the park. But you do other things other than just the Wildcat NIL currently, correct?
Yeah, I probably have too many irons in the fire. Yeah, so more context on what you're saying, I'm happy to share. I think coming out of college, like the first milestone is 6 figures, right? Everybody's like, oh, I want to make $100,000. That's a lot of dollars in 1 year. And I was trying for different jobs, and I knew that there was good opportunity in sales. And I happened to land a medical sales job with a tremendous company. I was super excited about it, and the company was outstanding. And I stepped back from that this spring because I was running that company, I was a part of NIL, but it just wasn't as active as I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be a full-time job, and it was more of like a side project. And I was doing medical sales full-time. So I stepped back from that. And then I've also, in the time, I've started a flood restoration company too, in Kansas City. So it's been exciting. And the reason I started that was because my father's in the industry, and I know it just enough to feel comfortable to start it. So I've been fortunate to have opportunities cross my desk, and I've just been relentless about trying to pursue them. And yeah, then you talk about these milestones, like what's next. I think, what the good book says, without a vision, the people will perish, right? And I think the next milestone, right, I have no fear in saying it, is people just want to be, well, at least I would like to be in the 7-figure a year range. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes that's tough to say because 99% of people will look at you like, well, there's no way. Well, yeah, the people also said that about the 6-figure range. People said about NIL. People said that about a medical sales job that required 5 years of experience. So there is a way, and somebody does it. Somebody has to do it. And challenge for me is always knowing what the vehicle or the modality is going to be. But again, I think if the why is strong enough, the how will figure itself out.
And you led me perfectly into the segue that I was trying to go. Anyway, like money, yes, I think probably was a driving factor for you. And I think it's for a lot of people, that's the thing that we try to look at first. For me personally, when I went and got a corporate job in Kansas City, I was making that 6 figures, and I was like, hell yeah, I got it. But I was not fulfilled. I did not have everything that I thought that I wanted. And then in reality, what I did is I quit that job essentially with no notice, just quit, and went to selling real estate full time, which is $0, unless you actually sell something. But my passion was there. My determination was there. And then now I'm, surpassed where I was when I was in Kansas City. But I think that with seeing you from the outside, because you have that determination, and because you have it's no longer a drive of money is the number one thing, the why within you is what the driving factor is. I truly believe that the world is your oyster, right? Like you can do whatever it is that you want to be able to do. You drop these names that you have these relationships with, and it's absolutely nothing, right? The education that you have and that you've occurred doing all of this, none of this education, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel that any of these education, these real life types of things that you are learning and implementing and doing could be taught in a classroom setting. There can be just, I think, maybe the baseline or a foundation or just scratching it. But typically the people that are teaching these types of things, they never actually have fully done boots on the ground understanding of what it takes in order to take it from zero to a multi-million-dollar company and starting, being an entrepreneur and doing all of this and playing, at a D1 school, like all of the things that you have on your resume. Yes, each one of them are a great success, but now compounded together, there's nobody that would have a better resume out there, in my opinion, because their determination is not the same as yours. Their perspective is not the same as yours. You are able to do absolutely anything. And look at all the people, the lives that you are changing every single day. And I always like, when we talk about this, and actually I think you and I talked about it before, it's not just the person, that one athlete that you helped, or those 4 athletes that you helped at the very beginning. What about their family, right? What about the people that are surrounding them that you now helped them? What about the mom and dad that couldn't financially afford it? And then what about the grandparents, now that they're able to see somebody, maybe one of those are the people that first time they went to a university, right? Or, within their family. The compound effect and the trickle effect out of the impact and the lives that you are touching every single day with the NIL, with the kiddos and the nonprofits that you're working with, even on the restoration entrepreneur world, it is hands down just, it gives me chills to hear all of these things and everything that you've done. So I think it's hard sometimes to slow down and see and celebrate what all you have really accomplished, because you are so determined and driven. I have that same issue as well, right? But don't discredit what you have done, where you've been, your troubles, your pain points, your failures. I truly don't believe that there's anything out there that is a failure that you can't get through anyway. You're gonna make it to the other side no matter what, right? But to wrap up my little spiel here is that it's amazing to see how far that you have come. And I think you've said it multiple times already, I know, in our discussions, but the family, your mom and dad, they're entrepreneurs. And do you feel that this is like embedded within you, the entrepreneurship world? And you have all these other things that have compounded, yes. And so, meaning like you've had to go to college, you had to do all of these things. And then you have your entrepreneurship spirit, and you really are the merged person taking both of those together and taking the drive forward. I don't know if I made my question clear with that, but do you think it's embedded within you?
Yeah, I understand the question. And first off, I appreciate all the kind words from both of you. Guys are very supportive and uplifting, so thank you.
Absolutely.
As far as why I am the way that I am, I think it boils down to values and beliefs. And obviously, these things are learned through upbringing, and some are passed on from mother to son and father to son. My parents definitely elevated their lives and our lives through business. But it's like people think, oh, okay, I want to start a business. I want to make a side hustle. I hate the term side hustle. I really do, because there's no side hustle. Like if you want a side hustle, just pick up another shift. Yeah. If you really want to change your life, you're going to have to work harder. You're going to have to do, you're going to have to do more. And like the notion that, a 6-figure salary job in the corporate world is bad. Like, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I don't think anyone here is saying. For most people, I'm sure that's great. That just didn't fill my bucket, probably not your buckets either. And that's completely okay to say. So I did see my parents endure a ton of hardships, and I did see them dramatically elevate our lives. And I remember being in, I think it was probably the 3rd or 4th grade. We did a lemonade stand in front of my house, and we were it was probably 110 degrees outside, and we were passing out like a half full cup of lemonade and selling them for like $3 at the time, which is way overinflated. And we made like $80 something. And I remember I had called my friends to come help, and then I was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go door to door. We're gonna start selling them. Like, we got to take this product, we got to get it in front of people. And I remember it was $80-something, and we split the pot how we deemed accordingly. And I think it was probably, divided 4 or 5 ways pretty fairly. And I just felt good because, like, it's not what I did, it's what we did. We came together to do something bigger than us. And my parents have been able to impact other people in a positive way. And some of these business opportunities, like, really none of them have been planned out. Like, honestly, like, you look back at it, it just kind of falls into your lap, or like the opportunity's there and you just have to seize it. And yeah, it's something that I've fallen in love with. I want to continue to learn more and develop and not be burdened by some of the things that maybe I'm burdened with now or other business people face. And there's always problems, like more money, more problems. The bigger the impact you want to make, the bigger the problems you have to solve.
Sure.
So I'm not as scared of the problems, but just wanted to continue to be better at that. So yeah, culmination of things. That's a little bit of a rant. It's hard to pinpoint, but I'm definitely very fortunate to have seen my parents endure what they've gone through.
Absolutely. Do you consider yourself a leader?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I one of my favorite analogies is, I think, as leaders, and it's kind of corny, but if you grab a Kleenex and lay it out on your desk and it's all flat, and you have your 4 corners of people on the outside of your Kleenex, you have your family, you have your friends, you have your sphere, right? Like, and all these different people that are around you. And as a leader, you pull up in the middle. And as you pull up, at first it seems that everybody else is dangling down and you're leaving them. But in reality, because you're going out ahead and you're driving further, you're actually pulling everybody else up. And I think that, yes, money is why we're in business. But at least for me, being able to pull other people up with me, and I should put a side note, the people that actually want to be pulled up and people that are willing to do the work. I'm not here pulling up people that are trying to be assholes and trying to just get, freeload and ride on the coattail. Like, I'm talking about actually truly surrounding yourself around people that want to move up with you. And I think sometimes it is lonely at the top. And as a leader, I think everybody or people perceive as leaders, like, you have it all. It's super easy. You have all these people that are truly around you. But I don't think what's really discussed a whole lot is that as a leader, sometimes it's very lonely. It's very dark, right? Like, and it's very hard to not allow yourself to go back to some of these people that, only want to stay at status quo. The ones that are partying all the time, the ones that have no ambition, the ones that are not looking to improve themselves, on a personal level or a professional level. So as a leader, can you talk about the struggle? And I don't know if your age has anything to do with it. I know my age still has a lot to do with it too, right? But do you have a struggle of that moving forward and then sometimes feeling like you maybe need to pull yourself back and go back to status quo?
There are so many struggles, and there's beauty in the struggle, I guess. So, like, I mean, you talk about what struggles have I endured, like going there, like trying to get to the place that you want to go. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a lonely venture. I remember, like, literally sleeping on, my buddy's couch in Kansas City for 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I remember the last month that I zeroed out all my bank accounts. I'm calling around trying to get money to make next month's rent, putting myself in tough situations. That's a lonely feeling. Then when you get to an area like the next level, right, and you kind of achieve this status of leadership, whether it's authority in your business and you're just the boss, or whether that you are actually influencing people, there's more responsibility and more weight, and people look at you to solve the problems. So that's a very lonely feeling too. And then you look around to people who have the same ambitions as you, and the higher you go, the more unreasonable it seems, the less people want to strive for that and expose themselves to risk. That's a lonely feeling too. So yeah, it's lonely everywhere. But I think, Stephen and Ashley, what you guys do, you guys are successful people. Like, the worst mistake that somebody can make is thinking that they're going through it alone. Like, no matter what I go through, like talking family tragedy, adversity at home, adversity in a business. Somebody's already done it and somebody's going through it right now. So the best thing I can do is either find people who are going through it or find somebody who's done what I want to do and gone through it and just consult with them. And being able to be resourceful is probably what I would determine, at least right now, as one of the more valuable assets to get through the loneliness of leadership. Would you agree with that?
So I personally, yes, 100% agree with it. And where I'm going to go with this, Ryan, is you sharing your story. Think about all the people that are out there currently that maybe are going through this loneliness, and regardless of whatever it may be, and they see and hear your story of what could be capable, and they see that, you know, you're the person, that the resource that they're looking for. So my point being in question is that how do you get out there to share your story more to help other people? Because obviously impacting people's lives is super important to you. That fills your cup up, right? But then how do you actually turn that around and put that out into the world to help others follow the same type of line, maybe not line of work, but passion and drive?
Helping others that are going through the same thing. How do I put my story out there? Let's start with that one. I probably don't do a good job with that, and that's me self-reflecting right now. I probably don't do a great job of sharing what I'm going through, just because sometimes the problems and challenges that I'm working on, it's almost like this insecurity that I have, like, you know, when I get to this point, then I can talk about it. Or when I make, you know, when the company makes this amount of money, or when we get this level of status, then I can share. But there's always, like, and you look back at all the things, all the milestones we set out that we've achieved or missed, and, you know, at the end of the day, it's just fear basically holding me back from telling my story, and I'm kind of realizing that as I'm saying this. Now, the message for the people who are going through it, I would say make sure you have the right plan. I mean, I've had the wrong plan, and that's very humbling. So, I mean, if you don't have the diligence to sit down, look at the numbers, do projections, and do your homework, you're going to get humbled either by your lack of preparation or just by the circumstances. But if you do believe in it and you do have a vision, like, you have to be able to block out outside noise, and you have to consult with people who are doing it. Like, if you have somebody who's already doing it, like if I wanted to start a real estate company and I came to you, Steven, and you said, Ryan, you need to do these 20 things for the next 20 days. There's so many recipes and blueprints out there. You just have to follow them. And if I was scared to do it, I was like, yeah, well, you know, these 10 sound good, but these 10, you know, I really don't want to do social media. I really don't want to hire this person. I don't want to make this decision. Like, you know, it's just a big step. I'm not sure if I want to do it, because they already, like, learn from the people who've already done it. And that's my biggest piece of advice. So, like, go find somebody who's done what you want to do, become their best friend, have a lot of humility, own up to your mistakes, and just keep going when you encounter those mistakes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. And there was a reason for my question, or, you know, saying that, right? Like, you and I shared a lot about, I struggle with, you know, getting on social and talking about myself, and because I feel that I'm trying to, you know, brag, and that's not the case. But we sometimes have these stories that we tell ourselves, and I think you and I are very similar in that, that we have there's a bigger picture out there that we can help more people, but we're holding ourselves back. And what if by us holding ourselves back, we did not help someone else, right?
Yeah.
Because we held ourselves back, somebody else struggled that we could have helped. And I think when I turn that perspective, and I'm even talking about myself right now, right? When I turn it into that perspective, it makes me, like, I don't want to say angry at myself, but almost selfish in the fact that, why not? I have no problem talking about it, but me actually sitting here and typing out or making a video by myself, like, I need to change that perspective of how I can help other people, because that's why I'm on this mission. That's my purpose in life, is to help other people. So, but why am I holding myself back? And I think that's something that you and I definitely both need to work on, because we have a lot more people to impact.
So in that moment, when you are hesitant to do something, what feelings are you experiencing?
Like, I think it's probably not even rejection from other people. I'm not worried about the rejection. it's more so does it come off that I'm being conceited? Does it come off that I'm trying to brag about what is truly going on? I even have like, am I qualified to give that advice, right? Like, do people, is the number that's attached to that, is that okay? Like, I question a lot of, like, almost everything from what are people from the outside going to say, to if I don't fulfill what my promises are to these people, what is going to happen? And even to myself of, do I really want to, maybe it's putting myself out in the spotlight. Do I want to do that? Because I never said I want to be somebody in the spotlight, but it's not that I'm trying to say, here, look at me. I always say, like, I don't want to be that TikTok person, right? That person that's dancing on TikTok, making a fool of themselves. Like, yeah, I'll sit there and scroll and watch you, but I don't want to be that person. So how do I find it to where it doesn't feel, I don't have that ick, the ickiness about it? Right. I don't have that answer, but I go through a whole emotional roller coaster. And even though I say what other people think about me, say about me, doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me as much. I still take those things in consideration, but I don't allow it to change the direction that I'm going in. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm all over the place with that.
No, that's great content. And there's so many different ways you can take that. I think I was listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast this week, and he was talking about the fear of others or rejection, or you can label the emotion or the feeling whatever you want. And his philosophy, agree with it or not, was that everything has to tie back to one core fear. And if you have a fear of rejection, well, what happens if you get rejected? Well, if you do something wrong, people won't like you. If they don't like you, you're going to be alone. And if you're going to be alone, you're going to live life alone, and you're going to die alone. And it all ties back to dying alone. And if you realize that, like, well, John or Sally's judgment really doesn't matter, because we're all, our life on earth is temporary. And after, several generations, we're going to be forgotten about. You might as well just strive to do what you think you're capable of trying to do. So it's funny that you say that. I'm struggling with the same things. I have these areas that I, am hesitant to be vulnerable, hesitant to tell my story. I don't want to come off conceited. Like, what if I start talking about my story and my story is, like, not even good enough to share? I have all the same feelings, but I appreciate you sharing that, because I definitely am battling the same thing.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I was just going to say, it is interesting, Ryan. I think you make a good point about the fear part of it. And I read a book, Fear is My Homeboy, which really put it into perspective for me, that is what was in my way of, and I think you guys can both relate, small town, or like you said, you miss a tackle and it gets put all over, like, social media, right? And there's a point where, that bothers you because, like, we're human, right? And somebody said something that, wasn't nice or wasn't meant the way that it should have been taken. But I think at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat of that we want to impact someone at the end of the day. Stephen and I have always said with LeadingLane, at the end of the day, if we make one person's life better, which I guarantee you we've done more than that, we've done our job. Yeah. And if you look back at my Facebook, like, there was probably like a year of no posts. I mean, like, nothing. People probably wouldn't have guessed that I was selling real estate, even though I'm selling 100 houses a year. Nobody would know that. And it was this humble thing of people are going to consider it bragging. But in the same sense, I realized that some people might not even know that I'm in real estate, because we don't talk about it anymore, and we don't want that to happen. So I've gotten better at it, but I think that when I'm struggling before I make a post or before I tell someone, I just have to remember, like, it's the one person that I'm trying to lift up that day. It's not the 20 people that'll be like, oh, must be nice, or, whatnot. Like, those aren't my people. Those people can comment, those people can say what they want, but it's the people that send me a private message that say thank you. And I don't need them to put thank you on my, post or anything like that. The fact that they sent me a text message, your post really meant a lot to me this morning. Nobody else needs to know that, but at the end of the day, like, that's why I keep going. And I just you're young. We've been there, and you're right. You know, Stephen mentioned about the generation, and I think that your generation or your age gets a lot of flack because we have those, you know, that maybe don't show up and don't put the hard work in. But at the end of the day, like, we're all given the same 24 hours, and it's a matter of who we choose, you know, to spend that with and what we do. So I would just tell you that I've loved, you know, getting to know more about what you're doing. I definitely think that you're inspirational. And I think the other point that I'll just leave with is that it's also a matter of putting yourself in rooms that you wouldn't necessarily be in. You know, Stephen and I met by pure coincidence. You know, we're at the same event, and it's just, you know, you don't know someone until you actually introduce yourself, and you might realize that you're, you know, two of the same, or which can be scary sometimes, you know, or that you have the same life goals. So I encourage you to definitely, you know, keep on putting yourself in those rooms, and I think people would just be drawn to your energy.
Well, thank you again. That's very kind words, and I'm grateful to receive them. So thank you.
And you know, I think here too, like, just listening to all of this is maybe this is uncharted waters. You know, there's not a lot of people out there, at least that I know, Ryan, that have done NIL and done what you have done, right? Like, let alone even starting a business and being an entrepreneur, right? And maybe some of the hesitation more so for me was what I do is completely different than anybody else out there. So what I try to compare, quote unquote, myself to does not meet my expectations. And let me give you an example. I really struggled for the longest freaking time of, like, what do I call myself? You know, like, what is my title? I don't like using the word coach because I feel like everybody and their mama right now is out there as a coach. I don't like the word as a consultant because people don't really understand what the consultant means. I don't want to be a high performance coach because I just don't want that coordination with other people, right? So the term that I came up with is I'm a high impact business coach and consultant. And the reason why I put high impact is because I want to impact people's lives and yes, I'm leading with business, but I think before you can even do anything and change anything in business, you first have to change yourself so that you can then lead, and then the business then follows. But I think it's maybe for me, going back to the question of, like, what are the feelings, and what Ashley had said is I need to put it in a reality check for myself that I'm here to impact one person. I'm here to be that high impact in their life. I'm not a life coach. And so I think it's these labels and struggles of people in the past with these particular titles that I don't want to affiliate with and be like, because I don't agree with all of their practices. But with that being said, this is all new territory. What we're doing, it's our story. It's our methods. It's what drives other people and attracts other people to us. And so both you and I'm going to make the commitment here that I'm going to do better at the posting and sharing and not holding back, because that's not what somebody that has a high impact in somebody's life does. So I'm not even leading up to what I'm trying to say that I'm doing.
Let me ask you this, Stephen, to whatever extent you're comfortable sharing. What you talked about, you've kind of been almost turned off by some of the coaches, right? The personal coaches. What philosophies or practices specifically are you trying to avoid?
So I just feel that there's some people that just go out there and are maybe didn't really make it in real estate, right? Or it doesn't have to be real estate, in the industry. And so therefore the fallback is, I'm going to be a life coach. Well, I mean, I do think that there's a purpose for a life coach. I'm not knocking it, but that's not what I do, right? I think that there's people that have not done what I have done and built a business like what I have built, but yet they have this wonderful title and never have even sold real estate, or haven't sold real estate in 30 fucking years, right? Things have changed. So I don't want to be perceived by the consumer, quote unquote, that I'm just like them. And it's funny that I'm even saying this, is that, like, well, if I don't want to be perceived that way, then how do I get them not to perceive me that way? And the only way for them not to see me that way is for them to actually see me for who I am and what I do. And that's sharing my story. So there's the therapy session of the day, right?
Oh, I love it. I think you're right. You just have to be louder about the things that make you different.
Yeah.
And there's so
be loud
much.
and be proud.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So what challenges are you currently facing, or what are you up against right now?
Ooh, like in life and business, like that's a whole.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
more so business.
I did go through this identity struggle, right? So Ryan Garrison, my husband, took over the supervising broker of the company. So I'm still an owner of the company, but I don't have that title anymore. So that's where I was really seeking this title. The title really means nothing to me at the end of the day. I just needed something, a label, I guess, which is also odd of why I'm looking for that. I think it's this, I want things to happen quicker than what they are actually happening. And I think the struggle there is, reflecting back, we have been growing this real estate business for over 10 years, and it had gained a lot of traction very quickly, and there's a lot of stuff going on, right? There's a lot of noise going on, good things, positive things, momentum. And so I was used to the momentum. And when you start from something else from complete scratch, and I think going from all that momentum to maybe not as much momentum as you're used to, I mean, I only have one staff on LeadingLane side, there are two staff on LeadingLane side versus the 7 that I had over on the real estate company. So of course it's going to go slower. So I think that the struggle that I'm having with is I need to slow myself down, because I did not start the real estate company at that pace, but I had to slow myself down, because I do think that in building a business, the attention to detail, it's all in the detail. It's all on making sure that you're not dropping the ball in certain areas, making sure the client journey, everything is actually there. And you cannot scale to the magnitude that I want to be able to scale to with going that quick. So actually going slower is going to get me there faster, because it's all in the detail.
Yeah. Are you comfortable sharing where you want to be?
And I think that's a hard thing. I was asked the question a while back ago with our new coach. She asked what number that I want. Like, I have a number that I want to get to, right? But like after that, the world, I mean, I want it all, right? Where do I want this to be? I now look at it like, how many other people can I bring with me in this journey? At first, it was all about me in coaching consulting. Well, now I've been able to see that we can have a whole different value service ladder, and I can bring in multiple different people and their strengths and lean into their strengths. And now, instead of it just being a one lane type of business, now we have multiple lanes and multiple people growing it. And now we'll be able to go and scale that out so that we can touch more people's lives at the end of the day, and then elevate the industry. And even with that, it started out being all about real estate, but this is across the board in multiple different industries, and even on a personal development side of things too. So I think it's seeing that there's so much capability, so much opportunity that is truly here. It's almost, I'm not going to say frightening. I don't want to get distracted with all of the what ifs, and I could, I can, and miss the opportunities of what is directly in front of me in building a solid foundation. Does that make sense on this? Like, because I don't want the new shiny thing. I used to be that way, right? Like, oh, let me jump over here. Let me jump over here. Let's jump over here now. Like, and never actually accomplish anything with it. I want to be able to master it and then go on to the next lane, if you will, master that, go on to the next lane. And I think that when building a business and building that foundation in that manner is truly how you ultimately scale your business. And that may be a completely different direction than when you initially started that business plan or that idea popped in your brain.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Well, we are top of the time here. Any last thoughts for any of you guys?
I just, admire what you guys are building. I think you guys are doing something really special, and you're going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I think there is literally no limit to what that can look like. And I appreciate all of the kind words, deserving or not. They've been heartwarming for sure.
Absolutely. Well, they're very well deserving. And it took me a very long time in business, still gives me a hard time, or like it's a hard time for me to say thank you, like what you're saying, thank you. So you're an upstanding guy, and I'm blessed to know you, obviously being then related to you. And I do think that there's a little bit of a common denominator, a big common denominator in what both your and mine's mission in life is to be. So I'm very fortunate and blessed to hopefully be a part of that.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. Please go like and subscribe and share our podcast. We greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with others. Stay connected for more genuine insights and strategies to boost your real estate career on Facebook or check out our website. We'll see you next time.